I am the subject matter expert, the product developer, and the spokesperson for Mountain Man Medical. So I helped Jacob Paulson start Mountain Man Medical a couple of years ago when COVID popped off. So we've not been doing this for too long, and this year we decided to start walking around, getting some more exposure and doing some training at some conferences and that kind of stuff. So we've been hitting a lot of these types of shows.
Palm pepper spray has recently reformulated for even more effect when you bless the deserving with the hot sauce. Palm is what I use between a harsh word and a gun, and encourage everyone to do likewise.
So my job is, I talk about stuff. I was in the military, spent some time with the Marine Corps as a corpsman, saw a decent amount of kinetic action over there in Afghanistan. Then I got out, and ever since then, I've been teaching trauma medicine at some level. For a little while, I was consulting with church security organizations, for faith-based organizations, on teaching them active shooter trauma medicine and weapons and tactics and that kind of stuff. So we would go into the church and use simunitions to train force on force inside of their own sanctuaries and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun. So I've been around doing a bunch of different things all over the place, and I really enjoy the job. Gets a chance to come out and meet cool people and do some cool things, and I'm really enjoying it. It's a good time. So the way my class works is it's pretty informal. You guys can get out of it as much as you want to put into it. If you guys want to ask questions, feel free. I love questions. I don't believe in stupid questions. I think that if you have that question, then there's probably 5 other people who also have that question. So ask your questions, and we'll walk through it. And that's a good way of getting your mind in the right position for understanding all this kind of stuff. So ask me your questions. I love questions. So this class is going to be emergency medicine in a hostile environment. Trauma medicine inside of a hospital is much different than trauma medicine in a gunfight. So there's a lot of different rules. There's things that we do in combat that we might not do in a hospital, right? There's a big difference here. So we want to kind of understand what those differences are and how we're going to manage those. This is going to be a very kind of down and dirty, basic combat trauma class. So this is what to do if you need to take care of somebody and save somebody's life with medical gear. How are you going to do that when there's a threat to you in the area? Like, what kind of things can we think about that will make it easier for us to do our job and for us to be more successful? One of the things that we're going to be studying is going to be understanding the tactical medic mentality, administering medical aid in a hostile environment, managing preventable death from combat trauma, and understanding and using basic trauma medical equipment. Now, it's important that you remember this phrase, preventable death. We're managing preventable death. Not everything that we run up on, and a lot of things that we might be trying to help with, is going to be preventable. That's something to kind of pay attention to, because that can kind of eat you up a little bit as a medic. Running through all of these scenarios of what if I had just done this, or what if I had just done that, that's useful to a degree, right? Because that helps us to get better. If you're highly motivated to change yourself because you didn't perform adequately, that's good motivation for you to change and to grow and to become better. But one of the problems that you'll find with medics, especially the less experienced medics who don't understand this, is that medical is hard. It's scary, and what happens every time you do something new? You fail at it. And unfortunately, you fail at something like medical, that's kind of rough. But understanding that this is the game that we're playing. Understand that this is just part of it. You're not going to make the right call all the time. Maybe you will, and that'll be fantastic. But if you don't, know that that's normal. You're not weird, you're not some sort of screwed up. It's just a normal day for you guys. And once you do this over and over and over and over again, you start to make mistakes less and less and less. But those mistakes are always going to be there, right? And you don't have that luxury of doing this over and over again. This is not your job. So give yourself a little bit of grace. Know that you can't fix everyone, and don't let that eat you up. Better said than done sometimes. So we want to talk a little bit about proper mindset. So like I said, trauma medicine in a gunfight is a lot different than trauma medicine in a hospital. And medics love to use the term, the best battlefield medicine is fire superiority. I need to shoot the bad guy, right? If I shoot him, he's not out there making work for me. I cannot take care of people faster than he can put bodies on the ground, right? So what I need to do is I need to shoot that bad guy and put him down as quick as possible. Now again, easier said than done, right? You got to have the skills for that. That's why we're here learning this good stuff. It's important to remember that running into something like an active shooter situation is extremely dangerous. I mean, if you are willing to do that, you should have your game tight. You should be practicing on the regular to make sure that you can hit your shots and you know exactly what's going on, because you are at more danger than anybody else that's out there. We had a guy out in Arvada, Colorado, very close to where I live, who was shot. He was a good Samaritan. He responded to an active shooter, a guy with a rifle down the block. He steps out of the Navy Army surplus that he was in, walks down the street with his pistol, engages the threat, kills the bad guy, wins the day. He walks over to pick up the rifle off the ground, and an Arvada police officer rounds the corner and shoots him dead. That's the breaks. Is that cop wrong? No. That sucks. It sucks to be that cop, to have to shoot that guy, but that's how things go, right? This is the game. You got to remember that this is how the game is played, and this is kind of a shitty game sometimes, right? The rules aren't very fair, you know, and things happen, right? But if you're deciding you want to respond to an active shooter situation, you have to be conscientious that you have more threat than anybody else out there. Because not only you got to worry about the bad guy, you got to worry about the cops too, right? So you got threats in all angles. So this is not one of those things. I tend to run into my friends and family who think that this might be some sort of like an easy deal. Nah, yeah, I just run in there with my gun. Shoot that guy, no big deal. That's kind of a big deal, man. I don't think you're paying attention to this like you should, right? Combat is very dangerous. This is why we run around in teams all the time, right? Even high-level military operators are running around with at least one other bubba, right? They've got 2 in a team, 2 in a sniper team, spotter sniper. So they've always got somebody there to watch their back. So if you don't, that's very, very dangerous, and the odds of you coming out on top are pretty small. So we need to have lots of people around us with lots of guns. If we have the opportunity, I'm going for this guy. I know the risks. I know I'm at a lot of danger. I don't care. People need my help. I'm going to go do that. That's great. Make sure that you know fire superiority. We shoot the bad guy first, put him in the ground first, then we go back and start working on people, right? Your safety, though, is your #1 priority. If you get hurt while you're running in to save somebody else, what have you done? You just made that situation twice as bad. Instead of one person that needs to be rescued, now there's 2 people that are down. And maybe they divert resources and you don't get saved, or the person you were trying to help doesn't get saved. So if you are planning to go in to rescue somebody, someone jumped in a drowning into a river. As a matter of fact, I did a study a little while ago, or I read a study a little while ago, of they were researching drowning victims were almost always adult males who had jumped into the water to rescue some sort of young relative that had fallen in. Usually it's the adult male who was very heroic to jump in to rescue that winds up dying. They float down the stream, they find his body a couple days later. And the kid they're trying to rescue winds up getting rescued about 70 to 80% of the time. So having a plan and not just running into the situation is important. If that person dies while we're trying to come up with a good plan to keep ourselves safe and so that we're successful, that person was just unsavable. If you can't come up with a plan quick enough, that's kind of the breaks. That person was already on their way out, and that's not on you, right? So, safety, #1 priority. If you can't be safe, you need to really think about how you can make yourself safer, and we'll go over a little bit of that here in a bit. So, proper mindset for a combat medic. Say you are in some sort of a firefight, we want to make sure that we're trying to use self-aid and buddy aid. I do not want to expose myself to enemy fire and get hurt because now the team is without a medic. I'm the guy with the skills. After this class, you will be the people with the skills and the gear to take care of somebody. If you go down, you could be the most valuable person in that entire mall, just because you've got the skills and some gear to make it work. And if you go down, everybody's screwed, right? So are you doing the most amount of good, or are you just running in because that's what cool guys would do? It's always better to do something than nothing. When someone is bleeding to death and they're dying, a lot of good trauma medicine has been invented that way by people just saying, I don't know, maybe I try this and it works. And it does. So think your way through. We're going to go through some of the basics of this here as this class progresses, and I'm going to try to teach you guys about how all this stuff works so that if you're stuck in a situation, you can tell yourself, okay, I know this is how a tourniquet works. I'm all out of tourniquets, but I got a lot of people who need tourniquets. Maybe I can make a tourniquet. I know how tourniquets work, so maybe I can think outside the box and I can problem solve this situation. Combat medics love being able to think outside the box. Like sometimes they'll try to do it when it's not even necessary because we just respect it so much, right? It's like if we're in a bad situation and we've got a spoon and hemostats or something like that, we try to think about how we're going to make that work. There's a story of a corpsman in World War II who took out a guy's appendix on a battle submarine underwater and saved the guy's life. He used some spoons as part of his retractors for making this thing work. So medics love being able to think outside the box. So if you understand the basics of how a thing works, you can do that easier, right? So that's part of what we're going to do here, is try to get a good understanding of these things. Good medical skills are essential for a well-rounded warrior. Combat is a multifaceted endeavor. It's very dangerous and there's a lot of things that goes into it, right? Shooting is a small part of that. I love to shoot myself. I don't love to shoot myself. Yeah. I love to shoot as well, right? So I've gotten pretty good at it over the years and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. But one of the things I've kind of realized over the years is how little that actually matters to the overall arching scheme of combat. Still, it's important. Don't get me wrong, you need to be able to put bullets where they need to go. But there's a lot of other things we need to pay attention to as well, like our physical fitness. Medical, obviously I'm a little biased, but that's an important part of combat. Being able to get yourself to a fight is important, so you have to have decent physical fitness. Not only that, but warriors take wounds. Fighting is inherently dangerous. You're going to get hurt. You're going to get shot and stabbed, and you're going to fall down, you're going to break things, and it's a mess. This is part of the game, right? And if your body is fit and capable, you're going to recover from those much more efficiently. The people that are able to recover from massive trauma events are those people who, are working out and active and taking care of themselves. So if this is something that you want to do, you want to go get in that fight, more power to you. Absolutely believe in it. This is where we need to start getting ourselves well-rounded and in all those areas.